She is the longest serving member of parliament and according to her, a bad girl. Maybe that's the reason why she is serving for the 4th time. Today she joins us to discuss politics, youth matters. Karibu sana mheshimiwa.
Asante.
Unaendeleaje?
Salama.
And you know, this conversation, I want us to focus on your story from the very beginning to youth, to women leadership. So take us to the very beginning. What is your story of origin?
Born and raised in Homa Bay town, a small, dusty, but very powerful town. I say very powerful town because it is the same town that has produced giants in this country. It has produced the late General Ogola. It produced the current CS for education. It produced the retired Justice Bosire and myself, amongst others. I was born to a father who was a politician, an elected politician. He was a member of the regional assembly, which is a kind of a mix between Senate and the MCS now.
Okay. Slightly
Slightly bigger than MCA, but smaller than the Senate. And then he was vying for a member of parliament in the same seat when he died 2 days after my birthday.
Okay.
And so I'm a chip of his old block from the political angle, but I'm also a chip of my mother's block. My mother was a social worker, trained nurse, but practiced as a social worker in state. And through her work, she did a lot of support for communities, helping poor people. Those days there was no feeder, there was no cradle, there were no organizations working around children and women's issues. So I saw my mother almost like an institution. So I became an amalgam of my mother and my father. That on the one hand I'm a politician, and on the other hand I'm a social justice adherent, focused about protecting and furthering the rights of women, children, young persons and persons with disabilities. So what my mother did all her life. Yeah.
And we all have moments that actually shape us. What was your moment that changed your life completely?
Well, I have moments. I can't say that I had one moment, but I've had moments. When you live to be in your 50s, you don't have a moment. You kind of have moments. And for me, I think the first moment, of course, was when I witnessed Phoebe Asio vying for an elected position. At that time, there were hardly any women in the National Assembly. And she was vying against a powerhouse then, when KANU was a deity, and she was vying against the KANU Secretary General, whose word was like stronger than the word of a presidency or current presidency or the Inspector General. There's nobody who was as powerful now, who is as powerful now as the Secretary General of KANU was then. But she vied against the Secretary General of KANU and she beat him. And I'd never seen men cry. Even when my father died, very few men cried. But for the first time, I saw a man cry because he had been defeated by a woman. And he insisted on going for a recount. And they went through a recount. And in the recount, she actually won again by a wider margin. And it kind of was very intriguing for me because I was like, what is this woman made of that makes her so different from other women? Why is she able to accomplish a feat that other women are not able to accomplish? And it made me actually question at that age whether then I want to be a politician. I think I must have been around 11, 12 years old.
Okay.
So I thought I probably want to be an MP like Phoebe Asio. But then after, I really thought very seriously about it because I thought then I would have to make a lot of visits up country to my father's home because I was not raised in the same constituency. And so I thought I needed to visit very regularly, make connections. I don't know why I was thinking that at 11, 12 years. But anyway, after a while, because I was also raised up in a very strong Christian family, there was a general feeling that politics is not for good Christian girls. And so I withdrew, and I said I'm not going to be in politics. So I decided at that age.
And years later, we've seen actually women take up spaces, women having a powerful position. The CJ is a woman.
The deputy CJ is a woman.
Deputy CJ is a woman.
Yes.
The AG today is a woman.
Is a woman.
The president of the LSK is a woman. What are your thoughts on that? It's
beautiful. It's beautiful, even though it is also tragic at the same time.
Why tragic?
It is tragic because in 2024, we shouldn't be talking about fasts. We shouldn't be talking about women trailblazers in 2024. These are things we should be discussing. That, can you imagine when I was 12 years, we got the first woman XYZ. But it can't be that all these years I was mesmerized with about Phoebe Asio when I was 12 years, and now I'm 57, I'm still mesmerized at women who are, breaking whatever's at the first, the glass ceiling for the very first time. And so that's why I'm telling you, it's both very exciting yet tragic at the same time. So it is exciting because now we are getting fasts, yet tragic because we shouldn't be getting fast. We should be, say, like the position of the Deputy Chief Justice, we had Nancy Baraza, now we have another one. We should actually be on the 3rd, 4th, 5th. Yeah.
What do you think needs to be done for us to actually get there?
Well, one of the things is that we need very intensive civic education with the society, because part of the reason that we have that kind of why it's difficult for women to rise is because we are socialized in systems that have made it so ingrained in us to accept discrimination against women even when we don't notice it. And one of the best examples, I'm so glad, I've been talking about it, I'm so glad that I heard Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie talking about it the other day, so I think it's an issue of great minds thinking alike. I call it the feminization of adjectives. That you find that, say the way I speak in Parliament, there are several other men who speak like that. But I will be told, Millie, behave.
Can you behave like a woman?
Behave like a woman.
Yeah.
Women don't behave like that. But men, when they behave like that, it's encouraged. You are told you are being assertive. If I behave exactly the same way, I'm told I'm being aggressive, which is negative. If I speak kind of a little bit forcefully, I am actually told I am shouting. For a man, he's just being expressive. And so you can't rise, because when you want to rise, you are seen to be doing the wrong thing when the men do exactly the same thing. And that's why very recently I told our speaker, when he was actually telling me that, Millie, you know, because as the mother of the house, you need to behave in a certain way because the women need to emulate you, you know, you are an example to them. So then what does it mean? Then I have to sit in a corner, behave with decorum, and if I feel like my toes are being, somebody's stepping on my toes, I can't shout it aloud because it's not the damn thing when you are a woman. You need to just raise your voice a little and hope that you are heard. One of the members of parliament yesterday was telling me, I had an occasion where some of my friends and colleagues were celebrating me yesterday. And one of the women was telling me, I don't understand. I raise a point of order 3-4 times and I never get a chance. But you raise a point of order and you are given a chance. Why? Because I'm feisty about it. The men will also be given because they are feisty about it. But because you as a woman, you've been told, just say, point of order, Mr. Speaker.
And be polite or at it.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Point of order, Mr. Speaker. And if he doesn't give you, you go back. But me, I say, point of order, Mr. Speaker. You don't hear, point of order, Mr. Speaker. And it is not the nice thing. So you gotta be bad in order for you to be heard. And that is why me, I'm a bad girl. I do not conform. if I want to get from point A to point B, you gotta hear me.
And away from politics, we've seen you champion for women's rights.
Yes.
Are you happy with the progress?
Again, yes and no. I am happy from a legal perspective. If there's one thing I am really, really happy about, because I'm a very focused person. When I'm in Parliament, I want, like Paul, the biblical Paul, to look back and say one time, I have run the race and I have won. I don't want to look back and say, oh my goodness, I wish I did better or I wasted time. And so one of the things that I was very focused about is to ensure that working with other members, that we do a legislative framework that is very positive for women. So I was one of the women who was in the select committee of the Constitution. We were 27 members, and I can tell you for a fact, there are things that I can assess my footprints, and I can say this is in the Constitution, courtesy of me. This is in the Constitution, courtesy of our joint efforts. And because of that, we now have a very good legislative framework for women. We have not only in the Constitution, but even in subsidiary legislation. We have the Marriage Act has changed, the Married Women Properties Act, which by the time I joined Parliament, we were using the Married Women Properties Act of 1897 or 18 something, I can't remember. But now we are having, we have a Married Women Properties Act that was enacted when I'm in Parliament. And so we have changed the framework of laws that are more progressive. We have outlawed FGM, we have a new Marriage Act, we have a new law, as I've told you, on property, we have new land laws, we have very progressive laws on economic frameworks relating to women that we didn't hitherto have. So for me, if I look back, I can say yes, on the legislative front, we are doing very well. We have affirmative action, and courtesy of the affirmative action, we now have more women. When I first got into Parliament, the year before, I think there were only 10 women. Then when I got in, we were only 16. Now we are over 100 women in Parliament. So for me, that's really an amazing feat.
And we recently saw the Kenyan youth, especially the Gen Z, take the street, and they demonstrated, and the discussion was a lot of these people are unemployed. A lot of these people do not have the opportunity to actually sustain themselves in this country. What's your take on that? And what do you think is the solution for this?
It is a tragedy. If you ask me, it's one of those things that the government need to stop any and everything and deal with for a variety of reasons. Just this week, my nephew tells me he's burying a guy that they went to college with who committed suicide because he's been out of job for 3 years. Yet there are many people who have been out of jobs for 12 years. I know a guy who has been out of a job for 12 years, and when an opportunity arose more recently and I asked him to apply, he has gone through so much depression that he said he can't. He said, you know, like, you reach a point that you feel like, what if I apply and then I don't get it? Or what if I apply and get it and it's only 1 or 2 years? So he just said, no, I'm used to this kind of life, and I think maybe this is what God wanted me to be. And it's not a very good life, but that is actually what the world or what the country has done to him. We have a lot of young people who are now gone into crime, people with the degrees and masters, and they are no jobs. So they've gone into crime. We have a lot of young people who have gotten into drug addiction because there are no jobs. And that is why I'm saying that the government must put its act together. We must find a way of realistically having job creation. And I know that the simpler way is to say, let's tax people and create jobs. No, I think there are too many avenues for corruption. There's too much hemorrhage of resources from, you know, unscrupulous people. And for me, I think what we need to do is have political goodwill right at the presidency, right at the top.
Okay. Yeah. And some people believe that actually the solution is in Parliament because that's where the bills are passed.
Yeah.
And like the case of the finance bill, which was rejected by the president, the notion was that it was unfavorable to a lot of Kenyans.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's very clear that Parliament is under state capture. Parliament, I've been now, this is my 4th term. And the Parliament of now is not the Parliament of yesteryears. And a lot of us don't vote freely, as you can see, or as you watched in during that debate. You notice there were a lot of MPs who went directly against the wishes of their own constituents, and that's why they were being greeted both physically and online by agencies. But it's because of that state capture. And sometimes it's very bad when you actually have a super majority, even though it was obtained in different ways, but it's good to have a balanced parliament. It's good to have a parliament where the parliamentarians can hold the executive to account. But right now our parliament is not able to do that. And to some extent, therefore, your statement may be right, because part of our work is legislative, representation and oversight, and we are not doing a good work in oversighting the executive. Yeah.
And we've actually seen you call out male politicians for the sexual innuendos, sexual suggestive words that have been thrown around.
Yes.
How do you deal with all that?
Well, I've told you that to me I'm privileged. And I'm privileged because I can actually confront you with issues that a lot of us, because of socialization, are not able to. A lot of women will not talk about issues that are sexual in nature, because then you are seen as immoral, deviant, and God knows what else when you raise those issues. But as I keep telling people, I think the society needs to understand that it's not a case where men were sitting in a corner and then women from nowhere just came with an invention called sex. No, we didn't invent sex. And because we didn't invent sex, don't make it a burden on our heads.
Or a moral issue.
Yeah, but that's the essence, basically, that people want to make it look like men were seated relaxing somewhere, maybe having their coffee, and then women came carrying a pot of something called sex and say, hey, here is our invention called sex. No, it's God who invented sex. So don't make it an onerous tax on women when you want to make sex about women. No, it's not about women. And so do not use sex to intimidate women. Do not use it to stop us from gaining leadership. And you could see, for instance, at any time a woman talks, like especially now look at the case of Soipan Tuya, that when Soipan Tuya was nominated, she was really told online, supposedly, for having an affair with the president. I don't know whether that is true or not, but I don't understand anywhere in our laws where having a relationship with the president is an offense. It is not. Perhaps they should have asked other issues, but not about personal relationships.
Personal lives, yeah.
Yeah, those are non-issues. Maybe they should have asked other governance issues, and maybe it would be worth listening to. But then when you are asking them relating to the personal life, you need to have your facts correct, because otherwise then you are defaming someone. And
moving on, do you keep count of the time that you've been thrown out of parliament for being a bad girl, Millie?
No, I don't keep a count. I don't keep a count. But I guess I'm thrown out a lot of times when I stand my ground. Which
was the most unfair one, according to you?
I think for me to be thrown out, I think they're all unfair. Because for me to insist, they're all unfair. But I know there was a time when, that must have been in the 10th Parliament, when I was sharing a report. We were actually probing the nomination of some officers, and I was not supporting one officer on issues of governance, but the House was already mobilized across to support this person. And so the idea was to make sure that I didn't reach on that issue. So I shared, I don't know in what context, I shared a report where I said that we were told by a person who appeared before us that 15% of parliament are gay. And I was not allowed to justify, because normally in parliament you are allowed to justify. I was thrown out. So I think it was unfair in the sense that they should have allowed me to justify and to tell them, yes, I'm talking about a report that was shared in parliament. It's not my report, it's somebody else's report. But I can't even remember which ones. There are too many.
What does geza geza mean?
Geza geza mean the finest of the finest in Suba. Yeah, geza is a Suba word for fine. So when you say geza geza is the finest.
So it's geza geza?
Yes, it's geza geza.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful name, and I've heard you call yourself that.
Yes.
At least now I know the meaning.
Yes.
We've seen you dance to a couple of songs, Kuna Anguka Nayo. We've
Yes.
seen you dance to One Leg. Have you done One Leg dance?
Yes.
Aha.
Yes,
so
I have.
which song are you listening to right now that is trendy?
Well, let me just say Anguka
Okay.
for now, until further notice. A lot of times I'm influenced by my grandchildren. Like now they've come from school. Just that I've been busy, so they're the ones who will make me dance. Not that they're the ones who influence my dancing. Part of my life mantra is that dancing boosts happiness.
And you're a very good dancer.
Song. Yeah, I know. Thank you. But I love dancing. And dancing gives me joy. Dancing gives me happiness. Dancing just livens me. And different people have different things that gives them their joy. And for me, dancing is one of them.
And I want you to paint the picture for us when you've had a really stressful day.
If I had a stressful day, one of the ways I deal with it is to meditate and pray. That is one way. Another way I deal with it is to watch a nice program I like. Another way is to talk with it with my family. My family is a very strong bastion for me. I talk about it with my family. And if I'm not too stressed, I dance. I dance it away. So dance is a very big part of my life. And if you want to know there's a problem, I remember one of my grandchildren told me once, she said, Grammy, I haven't seen you dancing in a number of days. So I stopped and I said, oh. And I actually discovered that there was something disturbing me. Because when I'm not dancing, there's a problem. Yes. So dancing is a big part of my life. In fact, I remember when I was young, my grandmother she had like a nickname for me, and she'd call me Omiele, Omiele. Omiele is the one who dances, the one who dances. So I've always danced my entire life. Yeah.
And as we finalize the conversation,
yes.
What message do you have for the Kenyan youth, especially the Kenyan youth?
My message for the Kenyan youth is that you have done us proud. And I want to tell you, do not give up on your idealism. Because I've spoken to a few of the youth and they're despairing. And they are trying to, and some of them are feeling like they want to give up on idealism. I know when as you grow older and as you meet reality, it can sometimes contaminate you and make you discouraged. Things are difficult, but keep on hanging in there. Believe things will get better. But otherwise, I'm really proud of our youth. In a very strange twist, the youth gave me hope. Normally, it's us who give the youth hope. But for the first time, the youth gave me hope. I even was telling some of them I was sharing that for the first time, I thought of retiring. Wow. Because I've seen many Millie Odhiambos. I said, yeah. When I see Shakira, I'm like, yeah, I'm seeing Millie there. When I'm seeing these young, feisty girls, the one who was telling Baba, step aside, I'm like, yeah, Millie Odhiambos are here. I'm good. I'm happy. Even if I were to retire now, I'd be happy. Okay. I'm not saying I'm retiring, but even if I were, I'd be happy because I can see a lot of young people with potential. What I just want to encourage them is to learn to merge idealism with life, realism. It's a difficult one, and the first test they had was coming out in numbers, trying to transform the platform in the country, and then being taken back they should not give up. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been a lovely conversation. I know you're a busy woman and we've been trying to have this conversation for 2 weeks now.
Yes.
So asante sana, I really
Asante.
appreciate that. I hope to see you around. Please don't retire. We need you.
I will not retire.
Please, for us.
But even if I were to, I'd be happy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Asante
because I
sana.
see the young people. The only thing I encourage them is, even if I were to retire, please do not do a mistake of trying to replace me with a retiree. Because I can see somebody moving around in my constituency a lot, and is a retiree. I would be very happy if a Gen Z came to challenge me. Not a Gen X, not a millennial, a Gen Z.